He said, "I'm not sorry about anything." He has been all over the internet letting everyone know that he doesn't regret being one of the four men involved in Pop Smoke's murder. People are angry at him and Adam22 for hosting the interview. One of Pop Smoke's killers is back on the streets, and they don't want to see things get worse. The answer to the question that has been bothering everyone, how the heck is one of his killers already out of jail? And some extremely fascinating facts surrounding the murder of one of rap's biggest musicians were covered in their hour-long conversation. King Vermont Rascal, also known by his stage as Blockstar, revealed more about himself in this cold-blooded interview with Adam22. Not only did he demonstrate next to no remorse, but he even implied that pop culture deserved it and that he wasn't sorry about anything while rapping about it. This interview revealed some shocking details about Blockstar's life and the circumstances surrounding his death. It also makes it evident why Blockstar felt no remorse. We found out from the interview that Blockstar was born and raised in Compton, moved to Los Angeles, and spent his entire childhood in the hood. He also revealed to Adam that he was addicted to fighting and that he was frequently expelled from schools. Additionally, we learned that Blockstar was close to the 83-year-old rapper Treyway 6K, who is currently serving a 6-year prison sentence for his crimes. It's also revealed that Blockstar and Treyway used to run around causing trouble when they were younger. Furthermore, Blockstar openly discusses how he shot a man he was arguing with when he was 13 years old, so technically he's not technically your brother. The Blockstar's early years provide insight into how he came to be involved in Pop Smoke's death. He also discusses how he detests butterflies and how, in times of stress or anxiety, he must act. The interview also clarifies and dispels the myths and conspiracies surrounding Pop Smoke's death. Many people believe there was more to the shooting than just a robbery, and various theories emerged. Others believe that Pop Smoke's takeover of the drill scene was the result of jealous people who felt the only way to succeed was to remove him back in 2012. Nicki Minaj even posted about how jealousy contributed to Pop Smoke's murder. Various theories were put forth, which makes sense given that fans believe there might be more to the story. But Blockstar clarifies everything in the interview and tells everyone exactly what happened. It was just a robbery. In fact, Blockstar claims he had no idea who Pop Smoke was. He says that following the incident, he was unable to sleep and was astonished to learn the next day just how well known his victim was. Additionally, Blockstar attempts to explain himself by claiming he was high on a perk and wasn't fully aware of what was going on the night of Pop Smoke's murder, but he also appears to be disturbed up when he tells Adam22 about it. He says, however, that he and his 3 friends were the only ones involved and that nobody wanted Pop Smoke dead. One thing that everyone has been curious about since the beginning of the case is who actually pulled the trigger. We know there were 4 people involved, and back in 2013, an 18-year-old, who was 15 at the time, admitted to the shooting. The theories circulating saying otherwise are incorrect. There were 2 people in the house that night with Pop Smoke, and people thought backdoored them. You saying that you didn't know anyone else in the house at all? Nobody backo, nobody. Let's clear that up, nobody. And he knows that 100% Adam22 tries to get through to Blockstar, but he flatly refuses to talk, telling him to move on to the next question. He then goes on to say that nobody was meant to be hurt and that it was just a robbery gone wrong. He places the blame for the entire incident on just being kids from the hood, even though he makes it obvious that he is not sorry for the killing and that Pop Smoke may have even deserved it because he was always rapping about violence. Towards the end of the interview, Blockstar expresses his condolences to Pop Smoke's family. It's evident that he regrets his actions and feels regret for them, but if he believed that a meek apology would shield him from the wrath of fans, he was mistaken. In fact, this interview made Pop Smoke supporters even more enraged. They had a lot to say about the whole situation. I just want to send my condolences and apologize for my actions. He blames it on being a kid and says that's just the way I grew up. Responses to the interview with No Jumper, hundreds of Pop 'Em Smoke fans expressed his opinions about his killer's reaction in the video's comment section, and the most of them weren't thrilled. The general consensus is that this man shouldn't have a platform, and if he does, he ought to at least express regret for killing one of the biggest stars in the rap industry. However, while the majority of people responded negatively to Blockstar, some were more understanding and suggested the young man may be confused, and based on what he said in the interview, they're probably right. He jumps from saying he isn't. Sorry to then, sending his condolences to Pop Smoke's family. It's pretty obvious there's some confusion going on. It starts to make sense when he shares more about his upbringing and says his family told him to not regret any of his actions despite his refusal to say sorry. Blockstar agrees that he feels horrible about the whole thing. In the beginning of the interview, we learned that his family are Bloods, and he was taken under a murderer's wing when he was just a teenager. Being raised in such a violent setting might explain why some are more sympathetic. One person, though, who has no sympathy for him is Pop 'Em Smoke's mother. Audrey Jackson has been fairly vocal about her son's death, and over the years has spoken to reporters and even accepted awards in her son's honor. Shortly after the Blockstar No Jumper interview, Audrey sat down with Hot 97, who asked her whether or not she'd seen the interview, and if so, what she thought about it. She explains that she hasn't seen it and doesn't want to see it, but she's heard how disrespectful Blockstar was being. She wasn't happy about that and sends a pretty ominous message to him. She says, "I've been told he's been disrespectful. I got to let that go because that'll eat me up. I got to let that go. The bottom line is your life is over. His life is finished. He's living. But if that's his approach to what he's done, life is done for him." The court's decision. There are a lot of people that agree with her that Blockstar's life is over. But before we get into threats and the dangers he faces, now he's out and in the public eye, let's take a look at exactly why the courts released him in the interview itself. Blockstar clearly says that his age had nothing to do with it and explains how he was very close to facing life imprisonment. Adam later agrees and says that many teens in similar situations have never seen the light of day again after brutally murdering someone. So what made them decide to give him such a light sentence? Nobody knows for sure. Blockstar, along with the two other minors involved in Pop Smoke's killings cases, had been settled with the judge, and although we don't know what happened to them or even who they are, we know Blockstar served 4 years in a juvenile detention center and was released when he turned 21. In the interview, he says himself that he doesn't know exactly why they went so lightly on him, but probably because he was sentenced in California, a state that's developed a reputation for light sentencing. There's been no official report released about his release, and all we really know is from what he says and what online reporters are saying. The only reason people even know he's out is because he posted a video on his Instagram of him cutting off his ankle monitor and throwing it away. He posted another now deleted video on his Instagram of him on the phone to his probation officer, who could be heard worrying about his sauce safety. A few weeks prior to the No Jumper interview, he began using Instagram, and ever since, he has received numerous threats that are very dangerous.